A penny is something most of us overlook, tossing it aside without a second thought. But what if I told you that some pennies are hiding life-changing fortunes? In this episode, we'll uncover 3 rare Lincoln cents with shocking mint errors, including one from 1984 that stunned the collecting world when it sold for an incredible $197,520. Stay tuned, because these little copper coins prove that even the smallest change can hold extraordinary value. The Lincoln cent has long been one of the most iconic coins in American history, circulating in the pockets, purses, and cash registers of nearly every household for more than a century. Since its first release in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it has become one of the most widely collected coins in the world. Among the countless billions produced, some stand out not just for their design or condition, but for errors, those fascinating mistakes that happen at the mint and slip into circulation unnoticed. These errors can take what is supposed to be a coin worth just 1 cent and transform it into a treasure that collectors will battle fiercely over, sometimes driving auction prices into the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And one of the most surprising examples of this phenomenon is the 1996 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that at first glance looks just like every other cent from the late 20th century, but which has, in rare error forms, reached unbelievable prices, ranging from $22,000 all the way up to $166,000 at major auctions. The year 1996 was not especially remarkable in the history of the Lincoln cent series. The obverse still featured Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design first introduced in 1909 that had become a permanent fixture on the penny. The inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" surround Lincoln's profile, with the date, 1996, clearly visible to the right of the portrait. On the reverse, the familiar image of the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo in 1959, stands tall. If you look closely at the base of the memorial, you can even see a tiny depiction of the seated Lincoln statue inside, an incredible detail that many people miss. Above the memorial is the phrase, "United States of America." Below it, the denomination 1 cent, and centered in between, the words "E pluribus unum." Billions of these coins were produced in both Philadelphia and Denver, with mint marks to distinguish them. For most Americans, they were nothing more than everyday change. But as every collector knows, it's not just the design that matters. It's the errors and variations that slip through when the minting machinery falters. And in 1996, some of those mistakes turned ordinary pennies into extraordinary rarities. Among the most sought after are double die errors. These occur when the coin's design is impressed twice, slightly misaligned, onto the die, causing doubled images to appear on the coin. On some 1996 pennies, you can find doubling in the inscriptions such as "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," or even on the date itself. To the untrained eye, it might look like a blur or shadowing, but to collectors, it's a sign of immense value. Depending on condition, some of these double-die 1996 pennies have sold for thousands. And in mint state, well-preserved examples, prices have surged to well over $22,000. Then there are off-center strikes, which create a dramatic and visually striking error. An off-center penny from 1996 might show Lincoln's portrait only partially, with a blank crescent of copper showing on one side. The more off-center the strike, the rarer and more desirable the coin becomes, especially if the date is still visible. Collectors will pay heavily for these coins, with high-grade examples fetching tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, one such dramatic off-center strike 1996 Lincoln penny found its way to auction and realized a price nearing $100,000, simply because it was so well-preserved and displayed the date clearly. Another spectacular error found on 1996 pennies involves wrong planchet strikes. These occur when the penny design is accidentally struck onto a planchet intended for another denomination. Imagine the Lincoln design struck onto a dime smaller planchet, or even onto a foreign coin blank. Mistakes that the U.S. Mint occasionally made during the 1990s when it was producing coins for other countries as well. These wrong planchet 1996 pennies are exceedingly rare, and when authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, they can bring extraordinary sums. Some of these have reached auction results, climbing toward the top of the range, with prices exceeding $166,000 for pristine, dramatic examples. Clip planchets are another category of error that collectors look for in 1996 pennies. This happens when the metal blank is improperly cut, resulting in a coin with a crescent-shaped clip missing from its edge. Minor clips might not be worth much, But large and obvious clip planchet 1996 pennies in mint state have proven to be valuable collector's pieces. And when these errors combine, say a clip planchet that is also off-center, the rarity skyrockets. Along with the price point, one of the most eye-catching errors from 1996 is the broad strike. Normally, coins are struck within a collar that contains the metal, forming the coin's edge. When the collar malfunctions or is missing, the coin spreads outward during the strike, creating a wider, flattened penny without a defined rim. Broad-struck 1996 pennies are rare, and when they retain strong detail with visible dates, they can sell for thousands of dollars. Add in high mint state grades, and their values multiply. The condition of a coin always matters in determining its value. Circulated 1996 pennies, even with errors, are less desirable than those that have been preserved in uncirculated condition. Mint states 65, 66, and especially 67 grades can multiply the value several times over. Collectors crave coins that not only display the error clearly, but also shine with their original luster and sharp details. Auction houses regularly note how the difference of a single grade point can mean thousands of dollars more in the final hammer price. Stories from major auctions confirm how astonishing the prices for 1996 Lincoln penny errors can be. A dramatic off-center error penny from this year, certified at a high grade, realized nearly $50,000. Another example struck on a wrong planchet shocked bidders when it sold for over $166,000. Even double die examples, less dramatic visually but highly prized for their rarity, have consistently sold in the $22,000 range when certified in pristine mint state. These sales prove that the 1996 penny is not just a common modern coin, but, in its rarest forms, a star of the numismatic world. For collectors, the thrill lies in the possibility of discovery. Imagine sifting through a jar of pennies, the kind many households have gathering dust, and spotting a 1996 Lincoln cent that looks a little odd. Maybe the date seems doubled, maybe the design is shifted off-center, or maybe the coin itself looks too wide, missing its normal rim. To most people, it might seem like a damaged coin or nothing special. But to the trained eye, that penny could be worth tens of thousands, or in the most spectacular cases, up to $166,000. Stories of people finding such coins in pocket change or inherited collections are what keep collectors hopeful and inspired. The 1996 Lincoln cent serves as a reminder that even in an age when billions of coins are produced with high-speed machinery, mistakes still slip through. Those mistakes create rarity, and rarity fuels demand. The result is that a coin intended to be worth just 1 cent can, under the right circumstances, become a life-changing discovery. This is what makes coin collecting so exciting. Not just the history and artistry, but the possibility of hidden treasures waiting to be found. The next time you see a 1996 penny, don't just toss it aside as ordinary. Hold it up to the light. Look closely at the inscriptions, the date, and the edges. Does something look unusual? Could be doubled? Off-center? Wider than normal? Does the coloration suggest a missing clad layer or a wrong planchet? That small piece of copper-plated zinc could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Because as collectors and auction results have shown, the 1996 Lincoln penny with errors has proven capable of selling for prices ranging from $22,000 all the way up to an incredible $166,000. And that's the kind of story that makes even the smallest coin in your pocket a treasure worth looking at again. The Lincoln cent has always been one of the most fascinating coins in American history. First minted in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it has since become the most collected coin in the United States and arguably the world. Generations of collectors have grown up learning about its design, its history, and its many varieties. While most of these pennies are worth only a cent and live out their days rattling around in jars, purses, and cash registers, there are rare and unusual examples that could transform this humble coin into a true treasure. Among these, the 1992 Lincoln 1-cent penny error coins hold a special place in the hearts of collectors. These small mistakes at the mint turned what should have been an ordinary coin into an extraordinary rarity, with auction prices ranging anywhere from $29,000 to as much as $122,000. The year 1992 may not stand out in American coinage history to the casual observer, but for numismatists, it is a year of discovery and intrigue. The obverse design still carried Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln, the image that had been unchanged for decades. The inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" frame the profile, while the year, 1992, appears prominently on the right-hand side. The reverse still bore Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design, first introduced in 1959, with a tiny seated statue of Lincoln visible inside the memorial for those who look closely. To most people, the 1992 Lincoln cent was just another coin. But hidden among the millions minted in both Philadelphia and Denver were a few coins that carried an error so significant that it would take collectors years to uncover and appreciate just how valuable they were. One of the most famous 1992 penny errors is known as the close AM variety. On normal Lincoln cents struck between 1959 and 2008, the spacing between the letters A and M in America on the reverse is wider, with the letters clearly separated. But on a tiny number of 1992 cents, the A and M are much closer together, nearly touching. This variety resulted from a use of a reverse design intended for proof coins being mistakenly used to strike circulation pennies. It is a small difference, one that the average person would never notice, but to collectors it represents one of the most sought-after errors in modern coinage. A genuine 1992 close AM penny in mint state can sell for staggering amounts, with some examples reaching auction results in the $122,000 range. There's also the opposite situation found in certain 1992 D pennies, known as the wide AM variety, where the spacing differs from what was intended. Though these are not as well known as the close AM error, they remain highly collectible and contribute to the allure of 1992 as a year rich in numismatic mysteries. The fascination comes from the fact that these coins were not intentionally struck as varieties. They were the result of human error, miscommunication, or the wrong dies being placed in the press. Each one tells a story of imperfection in a mint system designed to be perfect, and that imperfection is what collectors prize. Beyond the close AM and wide AM varieties, other error types exist on 1992 pennies. Double die errors, where inscriptions or parts of Lincoln's portrait appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die creation process, are always popular among collectors. On a 1992 double die penny, you might see doubling on the date, on liberty, or even on In God We Trust. These are subtle to the casual eye, but thrilling to those who know what to look for. High-grade examples of double die 1992 pennies have been sold for tens of thousands, with auction catalogs often highlighting their rarity and beauty. Off-center strikes from 1992 also capture attention. When the coin blank is not properly aligned within the press, the result could be a penny where Lincoln's profile is only partially visible, leaving part of the coin blank. The most valuable off-center errors are those where the strike is dramatic, but the date remains visible, since that identifies the coin and confirms its year. Collectors have paid thousands of dollars for dramatic off-center 1992 pennies in uncirculated condition. Clip planchet errors, where a portion of the coin is missing due to a mistake in cutting out the blanks, also appear on 1992 cents. A clip planchet penny might look like it has a bite taken out of it, and while minor clips are not especially valuable, larger and more obvious ones command higher prices, especially when paired with other striking errors. Broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the restraining collar and spreads outwards, give 1992 pennies a flattened, rimless appearance. These are rarer than standard circulation strikes and appeal to collectors who enjoy visually striking errors. And like the others, their value climbs significantly in higher mint state grades. The most astonishing part of the 1992 Lincoln penny error story is the auction results. In one highly publicized case, a 1992 close AM penny in pristine condition sold for more than $100,000, shocking even seasoned numismatists. Another example realized around $29,000 despite not being as high grade, simply because of the variety's rarity. Time and again, auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have seen fierce bidding wars for these coins, proving that demand is strong and continues to grow. Condition is key. A 1992 close AM penny found in circulation, showing wear and scratches, may still be worth thousands, but collectors crave those untouched examples graded mint state 65, 66, or higher by the top grading services. The difference between a lower-grade circulated coin and a high-grade uncirculated one can mean tens of thousands of dollars in value. That's why grading and authentication are so important when it comes to error coins. Serious buyers want the assurance that what they are bidding on is genuine and properly classified. For collectors and everyday people alike, the allure of the 1992 penny lies in the thrill of discovery. Imagine picking up change from a counter, glancing at the reverse of a penny and noticing something odd about the spacing of the letters in America. What most people would dismiss as ordinary might, in fact, be an incredibly rare close AM penny worth more than a brand new car, or even enough to make a down payment on a house. Stories of people discovering these coins in jars of spare change, inherited collections, or even pocket change at grocery stores keep the fascination alive. The lesson here is simple but powerful. Even the smallest coins can hide immense value. The 1992 Lincoln cent reminds us that history, rarity, and error can combine to create treasures in the most unexpected places. While billions of pennies circulate unnoticed, a select few carry the marks of minting mistakes that transform them into prized possessions worth anywhere from $29,000 to $122,000. That's why collectors continue to examine every detail, every inscription, and every space between letters when it comes to Lincoln cents. The hunt is not just about owning a valuable coin. It's about the excitement of finding something rare, something that connects the ordinary with the extraordinary. The 1992 Lincoln 1-cent penny error embodies this thrill perfectly, turning a 1-cent coin into a story of chance, rarity, and fortune that continues to captivate collectors around the world. The Lincoln 1-cent penny has always held a special place in American history and in the hearts of collectors. For over a century, this little copper coin has been a symbol of everyday life in the United States, passing through countless hands, carrying stories of commerce, work, and family. But among the billions of Lincoln cents struck since 1909, there are rare mistakes, errors, that transform an ordinary penny into a spectacular treasure worth more than most people could ever imagine. One of the most fascinating years that produced such a treasure was 1984, a year that gave us one of the most valuable and talked about error coins in the modern Lincoln cent series. And in today's story, we're going to dive deep into that year, that coin, and how it seems like a simple penny could end up being worth between $44,000 and an astonishing $197,520 at auction. To appreciate the magnitude of the 1984 Lincoln cent error, we first need to understand the context. By 1984, the Lincoln Memorial reverse had already been in circulation for 25 years. The obverse still featured Victor David Brenner's iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design so enduring that it has remained on the penny longer than any other U.S. coin design. The reverse showed Frank Gasparo's rendering of the Lincoln Memorial, complete with the tiny statue of Lincoln visible inside for anyone who took the time to look closely. The inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent rounded out the design at the first glance. The 1984 penny was no different from the billions of others struck that year. But in truth, some of them carried one of the most dramatic errors in modern coin history. The most famous error from this year is known as the double ear variety, a form of double die error. A double die occurs when the hub that impresses the design onto the die shifts slightly during the process, creating doubling on the final coin struck by that die. In the case of the 1984 penny, the doubling appeared prominently on Lincoln's ear. To the naked eye, it looks almost like Lincoln has a second ear right behind the first, an unusual and striking feature that collectors immediately recognized as something special. This error was not simply a minor variation. It was bold, dramatic, and easily visible without magnification, which is part of the reason it became so famous and desirable. Unlike some double dies, where collectors need magnifying glasses to spot subtle doubling in the date or inscriptions, the 1984 doubled ear error can be seen with a quick glance once you know where to look. That visibility helped propel its popularity and value to extraordinary heights. Auction houses soon began seeing 1984 doubled ear pennies come through their doors, and the results shocked even seasoned numismatists. In circulated condition, they were already commanding thousands of dollars, far beyond what anyone would expect for a coin that started life as a simple 1-cent piece. But it was in uncirculated mint state condition that these coins truly dazzled. In one well-documented sale, a pristine example of the 1984 doubled ear penny fetched nearly $197,520 at auction, making headlines across the collecting world. Even lower-grade, uncirculated examples have been known to sell for tens of thousands, often between $44,000 and $70,000, depending on their condition. Think about that for a moment, a penny worth almost $200,000. The story alone is captivating, but the reality is even more astonishing. It demonstrates just how much collectors value rarity, visibility of the error, and condition. Because while billions of 1984 pennies were struck, only a tiny fraction carry the doubled ear variety. That scarcity ensures their continued desirability and helps push their prices into the stratosphere. But the doubled ear variety isn't the only type of error to appear on 1984 Lincoln cents. Other mint mistakes, while not as famous, add to the year's intrigue. Off-center strikes, where Lincoln's portrait is shifted dramatically to one side, are always popular among collectors. The further off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin, especially if the date remains visible, which confirms the year of issue. Dramatic off-center 1984 pennies have sold for several $1,000s, with collectors competing to own these visually striking mistakes. Another type of error from 1984 is the broad strike, which happens when a coin is struck without the collar that normally contains its shape. Broad-struck pennies appear wider and flatter than usual, and these errors always stand out in collections. Similarly, clipped planchets, where part of the coin blank was missing before it was struck, give 1984 pennies the appearance of having a bite taken out of them. While smaller clips are less valuable, larger and more obvious ones can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Double-die obverse errors beyond the famous doubled ear have also been discovered. In some cases, doubling is visible on Liberty or on the date. These are rarer and more subtle than the doubled ear, but they still hold collector appeal and can command strong prices when certified by grading services. Speaking of grading, it cannot be overstated how important condition is when it comes to the 1984 penny errors. Collectors place immense value on coins that have survived without scratches, wear, or discoloration. Mint State 65 or higher examples of the doubled ear penny are the ones that bring those incredible six-figure auction results. Coins graded MS66 or MS67 by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC are the real showstoppers, and it is in this grade range where the $197,520 sale occurred. Lower grades, while still valuable, will naturally sell for less, but the floor is still remarkably high compared to ordinary pennies. The thrill of the 1984 penny story comes not just from its auction prices, but also from the possibility of discovery. Imagine finding a jar of old pennies in a relative's basement, sifting through them casually, and suddenly noticing something unusual about Lincoln's ear. You take a closer look, maybe with a magnifying glass, and realize that you might be holding one of the most famous double-die varieties in modern history. That 1-cent coin, ignored by countless people before you, could be worth tens of thousands, or even close to $200,000. That possibility keeps collectors and hobbyists searching through rolls of pennies, checking every coin carefully, and holding out hope that the next incredible discovery is right around the corner. The 1984 Lincoln penny also serves as a reminder of the fascinating imperfections of the U.S. Mint. Despite modern technology, precision machinery, and strict quality controls, mistakes still happen. And when they do, they create a bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary. A mistake that might have gone unnoticed at the time of striking becomes a treasure decades later, eagerly sought by collectors who value rarity, uniqueness, and historical significance. In many ways, the story of the 1984 penny is the story of coin collecting itself. It's about turning the mundane into the magical. It's about looking closely, paying attention to details, and recognizing that even the smallest object can hold incredible value if you know what to look for. It's about the intersection of history, chance, and human error, creating something far greater than the sum of its parts. When we look back at the 1984 Lincoln penny today, we see more than a piece of copper. We see a coin that captured imaginations, set records, and inspired collectors. We see a symbol of why coin collecting endures across generations. The thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, and the excitement of holding history in your hand. And above all, we see the undeniable fact that sometimes even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprises. The next time you have a penny in your hand, especially one for 1984, take a closer look. Check Lincoln's ear. Examine the details, because what looks like a simple cent might just be one of the most valuable error coins ever produced. And who knows? You might just be holding a treasure worth between $44,000 and $197,520. A reminder that hidden fortunes often lie in the most unexpected places.